7 silent behaviors that make toxic people fear you. Silent power. Most people never use theirs as a kind of power that doesn't shout, argue, or defend itself. It doesn't rely on aggression or confrontation. It's silent, steady, and incredibly uncomfortable for toxic people. In this video, we explore 7 silent behaviors that instantly shake toxic individuals, make them rethink their tactics, and sometimes even force them to back away. These aren't dramatic reactions or emotional responses. They're subtle psychological strategies that signal strength, self-respect, and emotional maturity. Toxic people rely on emotional chaos, confusion, guilt, and manipulation. When you show quiet control, they lose their advantage. Let's break down the 7 most powerful silent behaviors that make toxic people fear you. 1. The silence of emotional non-reaction. The first behavior is the power to stay emotionally neutral when someone wants a reaction. Toxic people thrive on pushing your buttons. They want to see you upset, defensive, anxious, or confused. When you refuse to react, you instantly remove their fuel. This silence isn't about ignoring someone completely, it's about not feeding the drama. When you speak calmly or choose not to respond at all, you show that you are in control of your emotional world. This makes toxic people extremely uncomfortable because their biggest weapon is the ability to provoke you. When they see that nothing they say or do can shake you, they feel powerless. It disrupts their entire strategy, and they begin to fear your emotional stability because it becomes something they cannot manipulate. 2. The power of short, controlled answers. A toxic person wants long, emotional explanations from you, things they can twist or use against you. When you start using short, direct, and calm responses, you create a boundary without ever raising your voice. Saying things like, "I understand," "that won't work for me," or "noted," sends a message that you won't engage in unnecessary conflict. This silent behavior is powerful because it removes the toxic person's ability to drag you into endless arguments. The more concise you become, the more anxious a toxic person feels. They start to fear your ability to think clearly and set limits. Silence inside your words becomes your weapon. You keep your peace while they lose their control. 3. The art of walking away without explaining. Nothing scares a toxic person more than losing access to your energy. When you calmly walk away without arguing, without justifying, and without trying to prove anything, you send a message that you are not dependent on their approval or attention. Toxic people expect you to stay and fight. They expect you to explain yourself. So when you simply walk away, you demonstrate that the conversation is over on your terms. This silent behavior destroys their sense of power because it shows that you can end the situation anytime you choose. Walking away also signals emotional maturity. You are no longer participating in the cycle they created, and that is something toxic people fear deeply. 4. The silent observation that makes them feel exposed. Toxic people hate being watched quietly because it makes them feel like their manipulation is being analyzed. When you stop over-explaining and start observing, really observing, everything changes. Your silence creates pressure. They wonder what you're thinking, what you've figured out, what you're planning. They start over-explaining themselves, becoming defensive, and acting uneasy. Your calm observation becomes a mirror that reflects their behavior back to them. Without saying a single word, you expose their patterns. Toxic people fear people who can see through them. And silence makes you look far more perceptive and dangerous to their manipulative tactics. 5. Silently improving your life without TM. This behavior is incredibly powerful because it shifts the entire dynamic. When you silently work on your goals, grow emotionally, mentally, or professionally, and stop seeking validation from the toxic person, they start to panic internally. Toxic individuals fear being irrelevant. They fear losing the sense of superiority they hold over others. When you start succeeding quietly and moving forward with your life, It reminds them that you never needed them to begin with. Your silence becomes a sign of independence and progress. They realize they cannot control you, cannot limit you, and cannot slow you down. Nothing scares a toxic person more than someone they can no longer influence. 6. Your silent self-respect and unbreakable bonds. You don't need to yell to set boundaries. You don't need to repeat yourself. The strongest boundaries are communicated through actions, not words. When you stop giving toxic people second chances, when you stop explaining your limits, when you follow through silently, your boundaries become undeniable. Toxic people want to argue with your words, but they can't argue with your actions. When they see that you won't tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or guilt-tripping, they feel threatened. Your silence communicates self-respect more loudly than any argument ever could. And when someone realizes they can't cross your boundaries, they naturally start to fear pushing them again. 7. Your silent detachment. The final below of the most powerful silent behavior is emotional detachment. This doesn't mean coldness or cruelty. It means choosing peace over chaos. Toxic people lose their power the moment you stop caring about their opinion, their approval, or their reactions. When you detach, they can't control you with guilt. They can't lure you in with excuses. They can't influence your decisions. Detachment is the ultimate form of freedom, and it terrifies toxic individuals. It shows that you've outgrown their emotional games. You no longer need their validation, and you no longer fear their disapproval. Toxic people fear individuals who are no longer emotionally tied to them. Once you detach, their control disappears, and they know it. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy. These 7 silent behaviors are not about revenge or coldness. They are about reclaiming your power. Toxic people expect emotional reactions, but your silence removes their script. It forces them to face themselves and exposes their lack of control. When you learn to use silence strategically through calm responses, boundaries, observation, detachment, and non-reaction, you become someone toxic people genuinely fear. Not because you're dangerous, but because you're unshakable. If you found this video valuable, make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Remember, you don't need noise to be powerful. Sometimes this is your greatest strength.